So today we have an interview with Mrs. Ernestine Wilson, at Pocahontas State Park at the Civilian Conservation Corps Museum. The interviewer is Ethan Howells, and we'll go ahead and get started. So Ernestine, when and where were you born?
I was actually born at St. Philip's Hospital in Richmond, Virginia. I grew up, however, on West Curtis Street in Chester.
And what was it like growing up here in Chesterfield?
Growing up in Chesterfield when I grew up was a very nurturing kind of atmosphere from everybody with whom I came in contact. I never was in a fight with anybody. I know, hard to believe, but I never was. The one time my brother and I got into a tussle, my daddy stopped us and said, "I don't hit your mama, you don't hit your sister. Gregory, men don't hit women." So that was the end of that. Okay. I went to segregated school at George Washington Carver High School. Graduated in 1964. I think I went to First Baptist Church Centralia, which at that time was over a railroad track on Centralia Road. We were ushers, we sang in the choir, we were junior missionaries, we had Sunday school unions, and Sunday school union means that every fifth Sunday you went to another church in Chesterfield for your Sunday school fellowship and lesson. And I'm saying this to say that all of these people with whom I came in contact, whether it was at church, whether it was in my neighborhood on Curtis Street, whether it was in school, they had a great deal to do with how I grew up. We lived in a home with my mom, dad, and my grandmother, who was an entrepreneur and who had her own clientele, and my grandmother could not read nor write. I have always admired her hard work ethic. Unfortunately, January 3rd, 1962, my mother died very suddenly. I was almost 16, my brother was 14. If I had to say a devastating experience from which it took me a very long time to recover, that was it. It wasn't that I didn't have food and clothes and all that kind of good stuff, but at that particular age, had it not been for people at church, at school, and in my neighborhood, I would not be who I am today.
Well, going off of your church experience, did you participate in any sports or clubs or anything else like that?
I was never the sports enthusiast, except I was a cheerleader in high school. You didn't want me on the team, trust me. No, so I did not play sports, but I belonged to SCA, belonged to Junior Red Cross, dramatics club, dance club. One thing I will tell you, we had a guidance counselor whose name was Mrs. Audrey Brooks. Mrs. Brooks and her husband, Mr. William Earl Brooks, were the proprietors of Colebrook Motel and dining area on Route 1 in Chester. Mrs. Brooks formed a group called the Delta Teens, and I was the president of the first group of those young ladies who were presented in a debutante ball, the first of its kind for black girls in Chesterfield County. It was held at what was then known as the Mosque, and the Mosque is now Altria Theater, of course. From that experience, not only did we learn to get along with other girls who were 20 of us in the group of various ages. The girls were from grades 10, 11, and 12. But you also were introduced to the proper way to set a table, proper way to entertain, whether it be for a tea party or a full course meal. You were taught what to dress like when you were going to an outdoor activity like a picnic, or what to dress like when you were going to church or you going to a party, you know. Our teachers were also very, very much involved in our development. In that, I had a boyfriend who was in the 12th grade, I was in the 10th grade. And if we were walking down the hall and holding hands, you ran into a teacher immediately. Everybody stopped, you know. And it wasn't about being afraid, it was about respecting your teachers, okay? Our teachers were role models, the way they spoke, the way they dressed, the way they gave us, again, good life learning skills. In my high school yearbook, I will never forget Mrs. Pauline W. Graham, who was my English and Latin 1 and 2 teacher, wrote, "It is not failure, but low aim that is crime." I've never forgotten that. I've written that in the same quote in many yearbooks from students that, you know, I was blessed to go on and teach. But folk like that helped to nurture us, meaning my brother and me. And we grew up, maybe for some folk it wasn't such a good time, but for us, it was not bad because we had the nurturing, loving atmosphere of relatives, teachers, folk at church.
Very cool. So we're going to kind of shift into the discussion of Camp Carey. When was the first time you heard about Camp Carey?
The first time I heard about Camp Carey that I remember, I probably was about 5 or 6. My mother taught Bible here at Camp Carey. And my daddy worked shift work, so she took us to camp with her. So my first experiences at Camp Carey, little girl, little boy walking around, running around, playing, following behind the campers, making mud puddles and all that kind of stuff, wanting to go swim in the lake. We didn't know why at the time, but my mother would not let us swim in the lake. We were mad about that, but we couldn't swim in the lake. There were leeches in the lake, yeah, and they probably still are, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's where it was, you know. But by the time I got to be a camper, it was different. You know, I just learned, like the water. But like I said, about 4 or 5, that's when I first learned about Camp Carey. It was a kind of escape from home. Nothing was wrong at home, but just to get away to a different atmosphere. Even at that age, we learned that was good for our development.
Well, I was going to ask when was the first time you went to the camp, but I guess it was
that was
early.
The first time. Mm-hmm.
When was the first time you actually attended as a camper? As
a camper, I was 9. Okay? That was the first time. I don't remember the week, but I remember 9-year-olds went the very first week of the camp. And it was beautiful. You know, when I say beautiful, gorgeous trees, plenty of foliage. Meals were delicious. We had Mrs. Lyles, Lyles, who was from northwestern part, I want to say Covington or somewhere like that. And she was the head cook. We had healthy breakfast and a plenty of everything. For lunch, that was when we had our big meal of the day, hot meal. We had fruit and dessert. My favorite was gingerbread with lemon sauce for the evening meal. And we always had entertainment at the evening meal. A lot of our entertainment was from our camp counselors who were older, but then every once in a while we would have someone either from the Baptist General Convention to come and speak with us, or you would have missionaries who were from Africa, and they would come, and the beautiful attire that they wore that was attractive. But then when they would tell us stories of things that they had been involved in Africa, if nothing else, it made you not only want to help, but it made you realize how blessed you really were, you know. It was one of my favorite games. I remember this lady whose name was Mrs. Ethel Myers. She was the camp nurse at the time. She was from Portsmouth, Virginia. And Mrs. Myers, one of the games she would play with us, she had an umbrella. And the umbrella was closed. And she said, in order for you to win the prize, you have to do exactly what I do. Somebody will come up. Boom, boom, boom. You lose. And again and again and again. But what did she do that the boom, 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 she cleared her throat. That was the catch. I remember that. The catch was to win the prize. You had to do exactly what she said. And what she said, she cleared her throat before boom, boom, boom. That's just crazy. Then if somebody celebrated a birthday, we always had homemade cake. Rarely did the parents come to celebrate birthdays with the kids, but sometimes they did. And that was, again, you know, something nice for us because we got to meet somebody's parents, and usually a brother or a sister, you know, would come. In my later years, I have run into some of the folk that I went to camp with, whether it was through employment, whether it was through experiences with Virginia State Alumni Association, or on Facebook, you know, in much later years. You see folks whose names who also were campers at Camp Carey, you know, and the display you have back there is great. Those girls are from Richmond, all were from Richmond, and Sharon Baptist Church sent us, a lot of the girls came from that particular church.
So Camp Carey was put out for all young women, correct? Throughout the state?
All black girls
throughout the state
who belonged to or had an affiliation with a Baptist church in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Yes, those were the girls who came to Camp Carey. They were from as far as northwest as Pulaski, then Tidewater area, you know, Norfolk, Hampton, Virginia Beach, all except then one was at Chesapeake. I remember Chesapeake. Northern Virginia, Alfred Street Baptist Church sent hundreds of girls from, not all at the same time, but, you know, from their church to Camp Carey, and that was in Alexandria. There were other churches also up that way. Bethlehem Baptist, you know, did the same thing. But yes, you got to meet girls from all over the Commonwealth. Danville was another area that sent, you know, lots of girls. It was a very rewarding experience. I looked forward to it each and every year. As I've said to you before, I went to camp from the time I was 9 till 16. And after that, until I was 19, I was a camp counselor, you know. And it was fun and a very learning experience.
Were you ever nervous about going to like the first day of camp? Or was it just normally excitement?
I was excited. Yes, couldn't wait for my daddy to get us here. Because we were doing something different, something new, you know. I need to ask my brother if he felt the same way about H.N. Johnson.
Well, you mentioned, what was the boys' camp again?
Camp H.N. Johnson.
Do you know where that was located? Or
It wasn't too far from here. I don't think, I'm not going to tell you it was on Pocahontas State Park land, but excuse me, it wasn't that far from here.
and it was set up the same way where young men would come from across the state
Yes.
together?
Yes.
How did you get to the camp? Did you take a bus in, or did you?
On my daddy's car.
Yeah, dropped off.
My dad's car.
Could you describe what a typical week was, or it was like? Like you arrived on which day and what you kind of did?
We arrived on Monday, and on Monday you got checked in, of course. You got to see who your cabin mates were going to be, and there were 4 of us in one cabin. Please excuse me. Remember, there were no lights, and we had flashlights, of course. I'm not going to say there were no lights. We had flashlights, of course, that we used. And I don't remember anybody ever running out of a battery. Never. Our personal needs were taken care of at a latrine, which had showers. It was camaraderie that caused us to be able to get along well, to help each other. There was not a shred of meanness that I would ever remember amongst the girls at Camp Carey. I never remember that. The girls did not always stay in the cabin with people that they came with. So this gave us an opportunity to know people other than those that we went to church and school with. That was another advantage, I think.
Awesome information. What were some of the other activities that you would do throughout the week?
Okay. Well, of course you had breakfast in the morning. Then you went to class. We had Bible class, and we had creative arts class. We had music classes. I remember arts and crafts. We made pot holders. We made key chains and key rings. Key chains are kind of the plastic kind you put across. You know. Some sort of plastic that we would thread together. Let me see, we had Bible classes, if I said that. I'm thinking I did. Every evening, every afternoon was our swim time. Went to swim. Yeah. Then after swimming, you went back to your cabins and you got ready for dinner. Usually, you wore something different to dinner than what you'd had on all day. It was still camp attire, but it was different. And when we got to dinner, it was, like I was sharing before, it was fellowship time, good dessert, dessert time. Lots of fruit, all stuff that we had, as I think about it now, so good for us, and plenty of it. We had the best iced tea. I'm thinking, it was more lemonade than it was tea. And of course, we had lots of water as well. But the entertainment and the educational sessions were another main attraction for dinner. After dinner, we had Vesper services. Vesper services, when I first started camp, were down in the senior section. There was a room about this size, not with the partitions and everything, but a room about this size. And we had wooden benches, that we sat on. And there was music. There was a sermonette. There was an opportunity for girls who perhaps had not been baptized to give their souls to Christ. It was a time where if you were a camper and you wanted to share an experience that had been on your heart and you had not been able to share it with people maybe from home, you could share it then, Camp Carey was a wonderful experience for me. I looked forward to it each summer.
What would you say were some of the most important lessons you learned during at your time at Camp Carey?
One of the most important lessons I think I learned, it really was from a Bible verse, and it says, "Judge not that ye be not judged." And I learned to get along with all different types of girls from all different kinds of home lives. Girls who were residents of the Baptist Children's Home, which is on River Road in Chesterfield County. They were no different from those of us who grew up in homes with our parents. I learned that there were girls who had skills that others did not have, and we helped each other with hair, trying on different shades of lipstick and all that kind of stuff teenagers do, Not so much when I was a little camper, but, teenagers. But I learned that there is some good in everybody, and there's some bad in everybody. Look for the good and you'll find it. If I had to say I learned anything at Camp Carey, yes, I learned the lessons. Yes, I enjoyed the crafts. Yes, I always liked to sing in the choir. All that was good. But learning skills about how to get along in life, I think, were the most important.
That is an important lesson for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you would have changed
about Camp Carey?
Mm-hmm.
Get the leeches out of the water. But that's a God-given thing. Because, when I was in college at State, there was a unit in the biology class about what leeches did to help people who were sick. Mm. I don't remember everything, but that was amazing to me, how you knew somebody was sick with whatever disease it was at the time, and you put leeches on so the leeches could get whatever the bad blood. I was like, find another way, please. Yeah, but very seriously, if I were going to change anything, it really would be the leeches in the water. But trust me, that did not stop us from having a good time.
What would you like future generations to know about Camp Carey?
I would like future generations to know that there were women in the Women's Missionary Union and in the Baptist General Convention of Virginia who thought enough of girls across the Commonwealth of Virginia to work together, because that's how it started with these two groups of women, one white, one black, to work together to make certain that there was a camping advantage for black girls throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I will be honest with you, Ethan, I'm not certain that every girl who came belonged to a church. But I'm thinking, okay, let's say you had a cousin who grew up in New Jersey and she came to spend the summer with your grandma. Your grandma lived next door to you. You were not going to camp and leave your cousin. So your grandma saw to it that your cousin went with you too. So I'm just saying that it was an opportunity to get to know different kinds of people, different places, and it helps you to become a better person.
When was the last time that you were at Pocahontas State Park?
The last time I was at Pocahontas State Park was for a Sunday school picnic, very probably in the early 90s. Wherever the campsite, I mean not camp, the sites are for, what's the shelters, that's what I'm trying to say, the shelters. And your church could rent the shelters for a day. And, we had a ball. Swimming, not me, because I had kids by then. Our ball was sitting, you play cards, whatever you want to do. But just watching the kids have a really good time. We always had, if I'm not mistaken, we had, what was his name? Garrett Mason was our caterer. Oh my goodness. Wonderful fried fish and fried chicken. Everything's not good for you, but it was so good. Potato salad and, hot dogs, hamburgers. Enough of everything for you to have a really good time. Some ingenious somebody wanted us to go to another park at another year. I want to say it was off of 288 something. No, not 288. What's the highway you take? 8 something, going to the airport.
890.
There you go.
895.
Back to Pocahontas State Park. It was very good. That's the last time. But I have not, I did not come back here. As a matter of fact, Ethan, I don't know when the camp became unavailable. I really don't know. I just know that when my daughter was growing up, I heard nothing at all about Camp Carey. And I was sad about that. Now, she went to 4-H camp and loved it. But the experiences that you get at a Baptist camp from those eloquent ladies who came from Women's Missionary Union and Baptist General Convention to talk with us again. More role models, Great experience.
Awesome.